This was last week's video. I edited this picture. Now we're gonna go on. I selected the next image, and what I wanted was something that captured some of the visual spirit, but a little bit different. And I looked at the images I had, and I found this one, and then I found this one. And this was really the two that came in. The reason I didn't select this image is because the horse is a little blurry in this image, and I chose this one over that because the horse is nice and crisp, and we do get a little bit of the head. But what makes this image different from last week's is that it's focused. The composition is primarily focused on the water, and I really love the way the water looks in this image. I think once we turn it black and white, it's gonna be popping. Let's get into this edit. This is the before, and let's make the after. First, we're gonna hit black and white. Now, black and white is currently making it very gray, and you can see these lines that immediately popped out. It's a little interesting how that texture came out in the reflection of the water off of the horse. The horse is so dark, it is the darkest thing in the image. This is gonna be a really hard edit because this is the full crop. There is nowhere to crop. I think you could do a 16:9 and it keeps, actually, we will do a 16:9 because we don't need that much foreground. And we're gonna look at the horizon right now. I'm just looking at this line, if it feels like it is parallel to the base. Not bad considering I was on a paddleboard. I'm actually really proud that I got that. Why is this going to be such a tough edit is masking, is what are the objects that our eye can generally already generate, like before the computer makes it. We got the foreground element here. We got the horse. That's a whole object. And then the background. The thing is the background with these droplets is going to look, you can't separate these droplets from that background without spending hours and hours and hours maybe. So what we're going to have to do is get a little creative. This kind of section of the image, I'm going to see how Lightroom selects it, if it does a good job or not. But this is going to be edited for its own properties and its own exposures and stuff like that. If you look here, most of the white, the clumping of white is right here. And you can tell that you kind of lose the details in this white. So in my vision, global editing, we're going to lower the exposure to get some of this white, the details in the white back. And then, but just like the last edit with the horse, is the magic is gonna be in the separate masks. One thing, just a quick note, is that since the dawn of photography, that is how people have edited. They have taken tape, pencil, paint, and they have changed the way an image would be exposed and processed, and our computers is just a reflection of that. It's just a continuation of that tradition. And obviously we don't see things in black and white. Why go black and white? Because black and white really highlights the texture. It changes the emotions of the situation. This image is powerful, but it's distracting. You see these greens, you see the brown, you see the mud, the dirt. The mud and dirt gives it a different feeling. And when we're editing, we're expressing. And so that's why I make it black and white, because I want to focus on the droplets in the air caused by the powerful hoof. You see this straight leg? The horse just slammed that down. It's raising this foot up and it's kicking it through the water. That's what's causing these droplets. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love that I caught this moment. Just to educate, we are shooting at 318 millimeter focal length at a 1/1250 shutter speed. Could I have shot faster? Yes, 100%. At f7.1, I probably could have gone down to f6.3, but this is what I had in the moment. Right before this moment, I was shooting a bird and I was catching the environment, and then this horse popped out behind it and it's running. You have a split second decision to make, and this is the decision I made, and I can get the image I want out of this raw picture. So I'm super happy with what I got. Could I have gotten more details if I raised the aperture? Could I have frozen the image? You see this, this is motion blur right here, the way the hoof is. It's not just the water. The way the water looks here is definitely motion blur. Could the water have been more frozen? Probably, maybe next time. But this is what I got, and you know, I've taken my camera out not so many times on a paddleboard. I'm still getting used to that, but I am so excited that I did get this image. And oh, I forgot to say ISO. The ISO was 800. I was at auto ISO, and the reason it's at 800 is because we were facing the dark side of the horse, and so the camera was thinking, oh, I need to bump up the ISO. And that's the cost of shooting an auto ISO. If I had been in manual, I probably wouldn't have even gotten the image because I was shooting a completely different subject a split second earlier. So not worth worrying about, oh, you weren't in manual. Manual's just a tool. Everything's just a tool to get what I want, and I got what I want. And I'm so excited to edit this because the last one turned out so well. And I do think this is more complicated, and I've been yapping away, but let's get to it. Okay, so we're going to start with the global edits because I feel like the global highlights what you need to do in your masks. So we're going to take the globals as far as I can and then go from there. So exposure first. Exposure is going to affect the entire image, and it's just, I kind of like to do it to envision what would happen if I lowered everything. It almost looks like snow, which is a kind of a loss of the story. There's not too many details to recover. You see this murk, this flatness in the water. There's really not too many details. So I don't really need to feel like I need to do that. I am going to go not far, but -0.9. The truth is what I said in the beginning. All those different sections are going to have to be edited separately. So contrast. Contrast is going to make each of these drops come out more and the rocks pop more. So might as well. And the horse too, and then highlights. So the highlights are going to be right next to the whites. It's kind of, we'll just bump those all the way down so you can see. And that's the highlights crushed. It kind of changes the way the water looks. It's more crispy, and we're going to want to lower them but not lose them completely. Shadows. The shadow is going to be like right here on the horse. It's going to be this gray next to the darkness of because we're shooting around 4:30, I believe. So it's like the sun was really bright on the horizon, about to dip down onto the horizon. So there was a lot of contrast in the image for light versus shadows. But shadows is probably going to affect right here the most. This around this circle. So let's look at that. So it's affecting right here. It is not adding, well, when we go all the way down, it brings out a little more droplets. It's interesting. I am gonna want to lower this area, the exposure here, for sure, because I don't want this gray to be so close to the color of the droplets. But I worry about doing it globally, so I'm not gonna do it globally. Now whites, Whites are gonna affect the water mostly. Let's just look at it. I'm not seeing it bring out details, which it's fine. It's fine. And we're gonna lower it just to there, and then blacks. Black is gonna be mostly on the horse. We're gonna see a fading, maybe in the details around the nostril. It's gonna make the darkness look more rich. It's really affecting over here, actually. And if we crush all the way, we're losing the horse now. But you see how black invaded this image? You get this is expanded, the horse is gone. And so obviously we're not gonna do that, but it is something to note the way that it affects the background. I'm gonna go here just for the global edit. It feels tempting to go further, but I don't like the way it affects the horse. In fact, I do like the way it looks over here, but I don't want the horse to become a blob. And so we're gonna just go here. And we're being very gentle with the global edits right now. Okay, let's add some points. We got mid-tones, highlights, whites, and that looks cool. We could add it gray, that would make it look old-timey. That's doing the same thing as crushing the blacks. But once again, this is affecting the image overall. And I just know that masking is gonna be where this edit really comes out. We could make the water look really bright. Oof. But there's gonna be a fine balance in this image between making it look I want to make the water the highlight. That's the goal of this image, is to make the water pop and to make the power of the horse come out. That's my goal, is I want the emotion of the water splashing in the air and the power of the horse. And so we have to do things that will do that. Okay. Then we're just going to experiment with this to see. The greens are going to be... It's interesting how you can target different sections based upon what color it would have been. And so greens, you see how those sections, that's the reflection of the greenery in the water, and then the greens in the mesquite tree. And we can make the water, the blues of the water look a little separate from the actual splash. Let's go yellow. Interesting. Yellow is allowing us to get rid of the bushes, because the leaves in the trees are actually a lot more yellow. And this is a really good experiment. I didn't know for sure if this was gonna work, but really the biggest point to notice about editing in black and white, and particularly in this instance, is by editing the BMW mixer, I'm able to avoid affecting the drops, and I'm editing what's in the background without having to create a fancy mask. So that's quite the win. You see how that completely allows me to darken that image. Now, I don't want to darken it so much that we lose the shape of the face completely. I still want the face to come out, but I want depth in the image. And so I am lowering it because I want the gradient of whiteness, like pure white to gray, is it. You want the white to be in the drops and then gray to be like the lighter whites, the grays next to it. And then further away from the camera, you see this blackness. I do want this to be black. And then the horse is going to be black because you see this giant, but he's going to be revealed by his silhouette. The silhouette's going to become crispy. This is going to be pop, and his face, the details in his face will be revealed. That's what we're looking for. While changing the exposure of these yellows, what we're doing is we're adding depth to the image right here, where this background now feels much further away, which is great because when you're using a telephoto lens, everything feels more compressed together. So I like to go back and forth to see what this is affecting. This is affecting maybe 3% of the image. I'm not too worried about aquas. The blues I messed with already. Purples, I doubt there's a lot of purple in this image, but it is affecting, it's interesting. Purples are affecting some of the drops. It's affecting the water, and maybe the way the water hits the light, is a hint of purple in that. So it's interesting how we can change. You see how the water is what's moving, what the water is what's flickering. So how deep do we want to go? And this is where we're trying to make the water look like a 3D object. And let's do magentas now. Magenta's affecting the hoof. Your eye is designed to see movement. I'm not a biologist, but that's what I was taught, is your eyes are designed to see movement. It's easier to see something moving. And so that's why I go back and forth. And of course, this is only affecting like 1% of the image, so I'm not gonna worry about that too much. The most surprising was the purple and the yellow. Let's go to orange. Oh, wow. Orange and yellow, extremely affecting. There's a huge problem right now by using the orange. You can see that it's affecting the edge of the horse. And that's one thing to keep in mind. Is one thing I learned about colors is that brown is actually a low exposed orange. So if you see something brown, it's not, in the computer's mind, that's not brown, that's orange. In computer's mind, in the program, it's going to be orange, not brown. And so that's really interesting to see. I do like how it's affecting the bush behind. If you see how it's crunching in some of that whiteness and giving a more removing some of the splotchy parts of it. But the huge problem is that it's also crushing onto the face of the horse and the chest, and we're losing a little bit of detail right here. And so even though I potentially, let's say I like this as the background, I do not like at all what this has done to the face. I feel like we just lost the story. We just lost the creature. It's now turned into a black blob. And that is not the goal, ladies and gentlemen. That is not the goal. So we're gonna have to go like this. And this is just where we play the game of how far do we go. And I think right there is as far as I'm gonna go. And this is the global edit. So it could change when we separate the horse from this background. We could have a completely different editing go on. Now let's look at red. Red is affecting the chest a little bit. It's giving a little more detail, but it's not doing anything that I feel like I need to do right now. So I'm gonna keep it very low effect. Now let's denoise this image, because this image has a lot of different textures. So by denoising, hopefully the parts that are smooth will look smoother and the textures will look more highlighted. Okay, so we've denoised, and you see this distracting whiteness right there? We could definitely mess with that. It could be a bird. Effects. Right now we're doing the global, so I don't want to do too much effects. I know that as we do this, yeah, you see how it affects the horse? The background right here looks good, right? It does get rid of that that feeling of this bush. You could completely get rid of the bush by using dehaze, but it affects the horse in a way I don't like, so I'm gonna only keep it to a 10. Vignette, I feel like I should not do vignette yet. I know I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna love it. You see how that really makes, you can see vignette's gonna look really good on this image because it's gonna focus you to this center piece of it, but I want to wait until we've done the majority of the edit. Clarity and water just go together. I feel like clarity is gonna make the splash look three-dimensional because some of the drops will get clarity while the others don't, and yeah, so, but I don't like it when it's completely bumped up. It makes everything look so sharp, and once again, it's affecting the horse, and I don't want it to make that chest look so crisp. So I'm only going to do 5 right now because I did like it more on the water, but it affects the chest of the horse too much, and I'm going to leave it at the 4. Just less is better. Now we're going to look at texture. Textures making the water pop. You see that? That's all the way. That's the opposite. And texture is making this image really, really poppy. And I love that. And I don't love the way it looks right here. I love the way it looks up here though. So that's one thing to keep in mind when we're doing the mask edits. So we're going to lower it down to the point where it looks good overall. Okay. And grain is going to make some uniformity, and it's going to help with some of the transition from in the background. So I'll just add maybe 15. And then sharpening. I love sharpening. Sharpen. So sharpening is going to do some of what clarity was doing, but we can lower it to just the droplets. You see how we're using the masking setting, and I revealed this filter by holding Alt. Great. Now let's go to masks, and we're going to go linear and the first mask we're going to do is the rocks. And this is going to create a natural vignette that is going to bring our eyes to the water. Because right now the rocks all look kind of flat. But by doing this, it's going to naturally make the image have more depth. You see that? And I think if we go all the way, it looks like it's a spotlight. I don't really want that. That's not what was happening. It was pretty solid, but I don't have a problem doing a little bit, and especially considering this rock is so bright. And we're going to lower the highlights, and we're going to look at dehaze. Dehaze makes it pretty dark. And clarity, I'm not gonna mess with clarity. I didn't like how murky I made it. Texture is hurting my eyes. This is out of focus, so it's not adding to it. Green. Okay. So now the eye has a tasteful blurriness here, and a natural kind of vignette leading into it, which is very cool. We're gonna do another one of those. Oh, we're going to do a radial from, wait, we're going to select the horse first. We're going to select object, because I heard that the AI for the object selector is more accurate than the subject selector. So by doing this, we're giving the AI more information, and therefore it can make a better decision. And of course I'll go in and I'll fix this, but it's a lot easier to do this at first than to have to go in and fix everything. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so see, it didn't even get this leg, which is fine. Nothing's perfect, and we're gonna do another object selector, and we're gonna see if that helps. Okay, not bad. We are gonna have to use the brush. I always knew we were gonna have to use the brush. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Brushing is just part of the game. And while this leg is in the water, it is gonna be affecting. You see those highlights right there? You can literally see those highlights. We have to control how those appear. I use spacebar to move. We're gonna skirt the edge of that water and get the ankle. I'm gonna accept that for what it is. Maybe mask a little around the edge. And then we're gonna look at the rest of the horse and we're gonna decide if we need to clean it up. Right now I have a plus mask on, so I'm not gonna do minuses. We're gonna need to do some minusing up there. We're gonna add here just to make it a nice smooth, not jagged. And one thing I'm doing in the post edit is I'm using the Premiere's speech to text editing feature to filter for when I'm quiet, and that's allowing me to speed up things like brushing. A little experiment I just thought I'd share with you guys. But okay, so this is the horse mask. By selecting the oh, we gotta do the minuses now. That's right. Okay, now we're gonna do the minuses, and the first part I want to do is over here, and we're gonna minus up here because that's not the horse. Fix some of these hairs. I do find that sometimes it's okay to edit just the base of the hair rather than the top of the hair every time. And it's interesting how smooth horses look. Ever notice that? It's like, oh, they have this beautiful mane and then they have just this smooth back. Okay, fix the chinny chin chin. And I get lost. Oh, we're gonna get really small. We'll fix the ankle. A little more grace there. Look here. But because of that AI feature, I'm debating whether I should just be quiet and let you guys just see the sped up version. I'm wondering, I also am considering just live streaming my editing sessions. Could be fun, but I don't know. Who wants to edit live chat with me? We'll find out. Those are mostly hairs. Just fix this neck a little bit. That's the horse. The horse has been selected. Now, to edit the horse, what we have on the horse is it's showing the selector. The horse has hot spots on it. We definitely lost details right here. And what I learned from the previous horse edit is that shooting into the darkness, we have to accept the fact we're shooting a silhouette, but we want to somehow separate it. And how to separate it is by making it darker. These highlights need to be, we can help the image print more clearly and add depth in 3D by focusing on those highlighted spots. But the majority of this horse is a silhouette, and I need to accept that. So we're going to edit it as such. Now, first thing we're going to do is look at the whites. You see, you cannot get any more details out of the horse. This is chest. That is definitely overexposed. And we can get some of the highlights and shadows. If we raise the shadows, you see how we're getting more kind of. I do want to raise the shadows to hint, because this is so dark. I don't feel like we have to completely ignore that. And I like the fact it hints at the 3-dimensional shape of the horse. And contrast is adding depth to the chest and the nose. It's making the scar lines look better. Here's where the blacks. Now blacks is gonna be this. It's gonna be adjacent to that, and if we raise it up, it turns gray and completely defeats the purpose of shooting the image as a silhouette, right? Now if we lower it, we lose the face and it doesn't look good. So go back to here, and we're going to only raise the tiniest amount, because I'm trying to bring more detail out of here. That chest is really the most important, and then this face. Now we'll mess with clarity. Interestingly, I'm almost wondering if I should be editing the face separate from the body, because this is it's overexposed. Sad truth. This is overexposed, but the face is mildly exposed right here. And so we could get details out of here, and it might highlight the shape of the horse better. But this is turning into, I don't really know. I just don't like the way the blacks affect the face versus the chest. And I don't want to ruin the whole image, because this needs to be black. So I almost feel like this needs to be a complete separate edit. This needs to be a complete separate edit. Dehaze turns it black. Haze turns it gray. Yeah, it's a lesson. It's a hard lesson, but it's a good one. I do like what sharpening is doing. And then it already was a silhouette, so that's just part of what we've experienced. I'm gonna have to do a brush selection and see if I can edit the face differently. And it's mostly going to be the blob from here up to here. And then another thing is we might be able to recover right here, the chin of the horse, and make it look more horse-like. And after doing some research, I've learned something sad but true. I guess you can't separate from one mask to the other. It's just not a way to do it. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna have to go into select, I'm gonna subtract by object, and I'm gonna have to be more. Okay, did you get, no. I'm gonna go into subtract by object, and we're going to go to, we're going to zoom out, and then using the object tool, I'm going to do a lot better at making sure that it knows that I want the whole horse not in there, right? And we can even bump the size to get, like, this is not working. It's creating a bunch of, okay. That's going to be the last one, and then I'm just going to use the brush tool. Yep. We'll zoom in. If you hold Alt, it does the opposite brush. So for example, I felt like I went a little bit too far here. And then we're going to chuck, see the chest. You see the redness in the chest. So the problem with using the select object tool is it's just AI is coming along, but it ain't there yet. It ain't there yet. I'm just going to focus on doing what I can. Going to be quiet so that I can speed up this section and make it fast. Okay, so we've now brushed out the horse, and you can see the gradient of the lightness to here. It's a little too dark here, but I don't think that will be a huge problem. And we're mimicking the natural foliage, the way that there is a darker spot here. And let's just look at it as we lower the exposure. And we're at -52 or 0.52, so that is half a stop. We're gonna bump the contrast. The contrast, if I remember correctly, really good in the drops up in the air, not so good in the water down here, right? So as you can see, it really brings out some of those smaller drops. Absolutely beautiful. This hints at the way it looks. We're going to turn off the mask just so you can see it. And it hints at the shape that it was before, but now it's very distinctly separating from the nose of the horse. And we still lose the chin. That is just part of life. But I do, if you focus on just looking at the background right now, just looking at this area, this feels pleasing to me right now. And to me, this is a win. We didn't do any weird discoloring to the snout. I was really worried about that. And I'm gonna play with other settings just to see what we get. But if I left this right here, it has served its purpose. The image now has a depth to it. This feels deep. I'm gonna lower the highlights, and as we lower the highlights, the drops disappear. If we raise them, we get more, and I think I am gonna raise them so that the droplets appear more. shadows, I'm hoping the shadows are going to affect, they do affect the gray area here. And one of the ironies of lowering the exposure and raising the shadows is it can create a three-dimensional thing where now if we lower the shadows, it turns into just this black hole, right? If we raise them, it adds kind of texture to the image. And we have to wonder, I like the texture it's bringing. Blacks. So so if you look at it as a pyramid, right? You got the highlights at the top and you got the darks in the back. The highlights, if this section is the highlight or the brightest part of this image, when we lower it, we're squishing it out, right? But then as we raise the blocks, we're creating separation, or we're spreading it out. Let's look at that. I mean, I guess if we talk about it as a histogram, it is completely different. I was trying to visualize it mentally, but I think maybe it's better to look at it as a histogram. So if we look at the histogram, right, and we raise the blocks, it peaks them out and turns this much more gray, right? And one of the things that does is it doesn't affect the white spots of the drops, but that grayness separates the background from the horse. And right now that creates a visual hierarchy where the horse is the darkest thing in this image. The silhouette of the horse is the darkest thing. The water is the brightest thing, and the background is a faded mixture of grays and well, shades of gray, right? And I think this is my journey with editing, is learning to that I'm trying to create hierarchy and give attention, and I'm trying to create a sensation of, and by allowing certain places to breathe and certain places to close, I can do that. Now I'm going to add texture. Look, because we're not dealing with large bodies of water, the texture looks very natural. I am going to lower it a bit because dead center in the radial, it does look a little too sharp, and that's just the truth, is we're dealing with a dynamic image in a dynamic space. Like the radial centered here on this white dot, and we don't want there to be a line of texture difference. Let's go with clarity. And that is actually bringing out the chin around the horse. Dehaze is going to make it darker, but what if we hazed it up? You know, haze is going to make it grayer overall, and it's going to hide some of the texture of the bushes. I think that's complementing the image right now. I think that's really beautiful. A little green, and then I feel like we've successfully separated the horse. I am going to use a brush mask, and I'm going to brush in this chest. And I'm going to focus on just the line. And this is where, if you remember when we were talking about what settings I used to capture this image, this This is the detail. This is the lesson that's making me a better photographer, right? Is I don't have data here. This white spot, I cannot do anything to manipulate that, which means I can't express myself. I just have to accept what it is. And that's fine. It's just if I had had a faster shutter speed, I might have been able to capture more details in the chest and preserved it. And it's a lesson to be learned, a lesson to remember. It's not, oh, I did something wrong, I'm horrible. But it is well, how does it look good? Does it look like muscles? I'm so zoomed in, I'm not sure what's happening. So if we lower the contrast, it makes that area I painted more gray. If I raise the contrast, you get the white spotches to the point where I don't really like that. I'm going to raise contrast by 10, and then highlights, I'm going to try to lower the highlights. And it's just what I said, they're burnt out, right? Now, if we lower the whites, we can turn it gray, but then it looks unnatural. And no matter what I do, they are splotches. So I'm going to go to -20, maybe -15 for now. And then I'm going to look at the shadows. And I'm just trying to find the setting that makes it feel like when you look at it, you can tell it's the chest of a horse. Blacks, you raise them, they're gray. You lower them, the whites come out. I'm going to raise the blocks by 3 degrees. 5 degrees. And well, that's a little interesting. Why is it not doing that with the white? So as we lower exposure, it made it look more natural into the horse. Like, you can see how that turns it into a full silhouette. And this is, I'm going to lower it there because that brings it to the same as okay. I thought whites would help. The problem is the whites are not selecting the reflection of the light right here is not being selected by the lights and the highlights. Not fully, not completely. I'm just going to reset all of these. I feel like I've been struggling with this edit. I'm going to reset all of them. It's too... I reset all of them. I want to use the point curve because what I saw looked good, but the highlights and the whites were not working to really change the detail of how this appeared. And right now it's so white, your eye just goes straight to it. And if I could get it to match the exposure of these dots, it would hide more. It would call less attention. So I'm going to go here first. This is the brightest part of the image. And I'm going to try to lower this. So and I'm going to lower these accordingly. Because you still want it to be like a curve. You don't want it to be completely... You notice how this is controlling those spots. So what if we raise this up? Well, that makes the horse's chest look like a horse's chest. But that's really brought a uniformity I didn't even know I could get. I'm actually really astounded by the power of the curve just displayed. This is why it's okay to restart, right? It's okay to say that's not looking how I wanted it to look. And introducing blacks, I'm adding more to the silhouette feel. I'm like playing with it, contemplating. It's minus shadows, highlight whites. If we bump contrast, what happens? If we lower contrast. Okay. That has completely taken care of that white spot. This spot right here now matches more with the background. I am going to lower the exposure. No. Okay. You see these dots right here? It's kind of like... Let's see if we can bring that line out with clarity. Dehaze will darken. We're gonna add green, a lot more green, because it's a dynamic texture. I don't think I want texture. What if we go the opposite direction of clarity? Smooth it out. We get rid of some of that pixelization. Raise it. So right now, the leg of the horse is disappearing into the background, right? And this radial is not really affecting the area right here. So let's duplicate this mask and invert. And then we're going to turn it on, and then we're going to subtract with a brush. I forgot if I was recording. Okay, so subtract with a brush. And it's interesting how the invert is so deep on this leg when I thought it would be much less. I'm not really sure why the horse's mask. I'm just wondering if that's revealing problems with the mask. And this water, I want the very tip of it. I'm doing a lot of masking. I think it's really complicated because you have you have so many different shapes and objects, and it's not going to be easy for the AI. It's not going to help you. So you have to make a decision. And so this is affecting the entire background, and you can see I could make the image into this black and white, where it's the horse is black and everything's white, or gray and white, right? I don't want that. I don't want to defeat everything I just did. I do like the fact that the horse's leg is seen now. So I do want to do this on some level, but I have a choice on how I'm going to use this. If you look at the mask, it's all white. It's all here. And I can limit that to just this area, right? Like, how far do I need to go? It's really right here, the crux of it. I think plus 20, and then I'm gonna do make sure you turn it on, because I found if you don't turn it on, it will freak out. And we're gonna bring this down. Nope, I did it backwards. Redo that. We're gonna cover that leg. Make sure it's right on the knee. And then we're gonna hide it. Look. And then we're going to make another subtraction. Because I don't like how gray it made everything. It completely ruined all the texture. I'll raise this up here. And we're gonna lower the feather. And then I want to edit this because the blacks are competing now with the horse. And I'm gonna do a luminance range. And we're going to raise that up even higher. This is how we're selecting just the water, right? The water, the highlights, and we're gonna use a brush. It's just gonna be easier to use a brush. And I'm going to remove the chest. I'm gonna remove the nose. And yes, I'm getting some drops, but for the sake of time, I think this is the smartest choice. And I'm going to increase the size, and I'm going to get rid of the rocks from this editing. I really only want the drops. Don't really need much feather. There's a very distinct line of the water here, right? And one of my questions is, do I separate this water from this water? I could. You know, this is how you would do it. But I'm going to try it like this first. And I'm going to try to make this water look better. I'm going to try to make it look more dimensional. And I'm going to try to bring texture to it. And one way to do that is just lowering the exposure, and that goes way too far, way too fast. So, and then we're gonna turn this off because it's too distracting for it to go back to red. And it's this splash right here is the object that is being affected the most. But you know, let's just do curves like that last one. It just makes more sense, right? Let's just do curves. And we're gonna play up here. Let's see. Let's just see what happens as we lower this. Because one of the things is this is just lowers everything. It's like as if you took the whole thing and just lowered it down. Curves allows it to gradually adjust the whole spectrum of sight. I'm not loving this. Definitely not that. Gonna reset it. That's as if I had lowered the exposure. So I do want the whites to be bright, right? I want there to be whiteness in them. I just want some of it to show shade, gradients. And what I'm running into is there's so much texture that it's looking where the other one, because the water was more clumped up, I was able to make the water look like textured, whereas I add texture to this image, it looks so sharp and dotted. Like, I'm not loving that. And so I'm having to experiment. I'm not gonna get texture because the more texture, the sharper it looks. I can do the most minute of edits to the curve. We're gonna try dehaze. Okay, so dehaze is going in the right direction in my opinion. Problem is I can't really see the difference after 15. So I'll just add 10. I'm gonna add grain, because one thing I notice is that it's the water in front that's being seen. Like, let's lower clarity, which is not typically what I say. Raise clarity. You see how if we raise clarity, it just gets so sharp so fast. What if we lower texture? It becomes a splotch. Raise texture just cause it becomes a mess. I'm gonna lower texture by 5, 3, 4. We're gonna raise clarity because I think it adds dimension to the splash, because the ones in front are getting the clarity. The ones that have the light on them are getting the clarity. And I'm gonna raise dehaze. And what I'm hoping is, as I look here, I'm seeing dots that are getting the effect, and then dots in the back are not. And I'm hoping that's creating contrast in a sense. I'm gonna play with raising the grain. I actually think raising the grain might be the solution to this. Maybe only to 30 though. And then we're gonna sharpness. Oof. Raise sharpness. Yeah. I'm gonna lower it to -2. And I'm gonna look at light. I'm gonna look at highlights. I definitely don't want to crush them. I don't want to raise them. You see how that's just making it nasty. But I do want to lower them. I don't know. We'll go to -5. And then whites we're gonna play with. Raise them, lower them. I'm gonna lower them to I think -7. And we're gonna move this over here. We're raising the midtones now. And by raising the midtones, it feels more like foam now than just turns it all gray. We're gonna look at the original. I love the face of the horse. I think it's sharp. It's captured. The silhouette of the horse is strong. It contrasts with the background. The water is intense. It's speckled. It's so intense that where in the other image we were able to create the feeling of fluidity, right now we're just getting these specks, and I don't love that. I'm gonna go to details. I'm gonna try to lower sharpness. I think raising it is actually making it look more cohesive. I'm going to move back to the global edits, and I'm gonna go to effects. I'm gonna go to dehaze, because the image has gone really gray with this edit. One problem I find is that as I stare in one spot, I forget that people are gonna look at it as a whole. You know, most people aren't even gonna look at it on a full screen. Most people will never look at this picture as a full screen image. I'm gonna do the vignette now. And I don't love when the vignette looks like this, where it's like obviously in there. I like a subtle vignette. And I'm wondering if this image would have been better if I had captured at a faster shutter speed. That the details we're losing in the edit would have been saved. I also find I'm one of those people that as time goes, I fatigue and I go, oh, this is bad. And so I'm second guessing everything, you know? But I do think it's magical though. I think it is cool how this horse's hoof is silhouetted, you know? I do think it's an intriguing image the way this is caught. It could have been a hair faster. This could be it. This could be the end of this edit. I'm not sure. I'm not ready to say, yes, this is 100% what I want. But I am proud of the way this looks, and I think it looks good in the series. If you look at the previous picture, this is the previous picture, and you can see how he captured the water better. And then we go into this picture. I don't know. I'm wondering if there's a way to get a little bit more back from just right here. Like, I just want more in the water right here. This is the problem. Right here, to me, it becomes a mess. I'm gonna try to use a mask. Because it's such a specific spot that's particularly bothering me, I'm just gonna use a brush. I'm gonna add 50 pixels of feather. And I'm gonna brush it in. It really is this pool right here that's bothering me. The rest of the image has really come together. It's like the brightest parts. What? I wish I could move that over there. Like, I don't even need this 90% of the time. Anyways, I'm gonna subtract it from this rock. I really just want the pool down there to look more cohesive. Please work with me. I'd be so nice if you would work with me. Keep the leg nice and sharp. I do like the leg. I'm gonna subtract a little from over here. And then let's mess with this. Let's just see what we can do. Subtracting exposure does bring out those front. Something is possible. Okay. I'm gonna fix that exposure. Yes. I think that's what's wrong, is that there's no gradient in the splash, and so it's looking like one homogeneous speckled white thing. And I don't have a problem with that. I just want some color back. Oh my gosh, that makes it already look so much better. Like, those look like splashes. It looks like something's in front, something's in back. I'm gonna go to effects. I'm gonna dehaze. dehaze is bringing in the background a little. I'm gonna haze. Yeah, I don't want to haze. I'm gonna dehaze just to 15. We're gonna look at clarity. Clarity is making it the opposite of what I'm looking for. I want some things to be soft and some things to be sharp, right? So I'm actually gonna de-clarify this so that there's some background to the sharp objects. It's like contrast of sharpness. That's what I'm working on right now. Because if everything is sharp, it hurts the eyes. I think this is what we were missing, boys and ladies and gentlemen. I think texture is helping so much with making a background feel. It's adding dimension, which was what was the problem. Like everything was so like sharp. We're adding grain because grain will help with some of those black dot spots. And it just makes it feel more natural, which means you do have a little sharpness right here, but it looks natural and grainy versus weird ice appearing out of nowhere. I did like the fact that the background is being seen more as we dehaze. It's like making that hoof pop out. And then I'm going to try to raise this up just to see what happens. Too high. I'm just creeping it back in to get to, because this is what I wanted. I want this to be bright. I want this to be bright. I want this to be bright. I want this to be the brightest point in the image because it's where the water has clumped up. It's where the water has gathered. And then waves make those bright. But then next to them, you have to have darkness. And this already feels so much better than what we had. This has depth to it. I don't feel like I'm looking at just a wall of dots now. I feel like I'm looking at, oh, that's closer. That's further. And I can see it. Now the chest piece, I'm gonna raise the highlights, maybe go down to the exposure, raise it up a bit because it does look a little unnatural now. Can I just delete that? And we'll just raise it up. Raise those shadows a little bit. Okay. Now look at the whole thing. And now we have layers to the image. Even the water feels like it has layers, has clumps. That's something to look at. And it fits well with the previous image, I feel like. Where this image is elegant, powerful, the water is seen, this highlights the chaos. This highlights the chaos of a horse splashing. It shows how it went everywhere. It's in your face. I do wish this was a little sharper, but I think it's good. I'm proud of this image. It's a good image. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, please like and subscribe. I'm going to do a lot more of this, and I'm so happy to share with you. Have a good day.